Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. On tonight's episode, Wednesday, January 29th, the year of our Lord 2025, I am the real underscore G Warner, and I'll be going through the Europa League final match day, all 18 matches, and we'll come out with the best bet. We're 26 and 9, 74% so far year to date. Had a big Champions League day today, and it's going to be even crazier as there's a lot more prep that goes into the Europa League. But wanted to get an episode out there, and I want to make sure everyone knows we're live. So I'm going to tweet this now. And then let's get ready to start. Going to go through each game on the list. Some certainly will have more color than others, as I'm sure you can understand. Some of these leagues I cover and follow and watch every match of. Others, I just pay attention to the teams that are in Europe. So we're going to get through that, and hopefully this will be like a 30 or 35-minute episode, and we'll get an ultimate best bet out end of show, which is what my 26 and 9 record, 74% comes from. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G-Warner. If you are looking for ways to get this podcast every week, subscribe, Betting the Pitch on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, or at the real_G-Warner on YouTube. Or if you want these 1-minute videos, YouTube is a great spot for it. Also at the real_G-Warner on Instagram. So we'll start on the Thursday card. All matches are starting at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So there's a big glut. I don't know. I did so many write-ups today. I think I ended up with 7 Champions League plays. I have honestly no idea how many are going to come out, but that's why I'm doing this episode, so we can kind of learn that together. If you are joining live on this broadcast, you may be able to throw a comment in here, and as I have the live comments available, and let's get into it. So 2 minutes in, let's start with Ajax hosting Galatasaray. And what I'm going to try to do is go through the permutations of the where everyone sits in the table. Same sort of story as the Champions League. Top 8 get buys. 9 through 24 will play in a playoff round to get into the bracket, essentially, into the round of 16, and 25 through 36 are eliminated. There were not a ton of matches today in Champions League that were really riding upon things, though Manchester City was on the outside looking in. So hopefully we can see some of that same drama. So we'll start with that Ajax Galatasaray match. Ajax currently a pick'em, almost all the juice on the home team in Amsterdam. Total is 3.5 on this one, and it is juiced a little bit more to under than to over. Ajax currently sits 16th on 10 points with a 7 goal differential, which is pretty good for 10 points. They can be caught by Porto with 8, Twente and Braga on 7, cannot be by TSG Hoffenheim, a German club. So there is some danger to Ajax. If they wanted to get into the buys, they would need to get at least 14 points. They cannot get there. So they are essentially playing to make sure that they are still in the knockout rounds. And that's important for a Dutch club that has formerly been in the Champions League every year and has certainly gone through the ringer financially, et cetera, et cetera. As for their visitor, Galatasaray, they are currently in that 9th position on 13 points of +4 goal differential, which is a pretty good standing for them. They're 1 point behind the buys with FCSB from Bucharest and also Anderlecht and Tottenham and Lyon all there. So there's a long way. Galatasaray certainly should be motivated to try to get that buy, and Ajax probably will be safe, but need to certainly get at least 1 point to ensure that I guess they need a win guarantees them moving on to the knockouts. It's probably likely that they will with a draw. Probably likely they will anyway, but we'll see. Ajax currently at a pick'em is where I'm leaning on this one. I feel like that price seems really, really cheap, though Ajax certainly nowhere near the strength that they used to be. A total at 3.5 in a match that matters for both these teams does feel a little steep, so I'll lean to under there. But I think Ajax is my bigger interest of the two. We'll move now to the next match on the list, and that is Athletic Club Bilbao of Spanish La Liga hosting Victoria Plzen of the Czech First Division. Currently, Athletic Club a 3/4 goal favorite with more juice, totals 2.25, with juice more to the under. Very little though, -112 versus -108. No real tell on where that will move. In terms of where these teams sit in the table, Athletic Club on 13, or excuse me, in third place on 16 points, 3 points behind the current leaders, Lazio, and they could be caught, I guess, by Galatasaray and Bodo Glimt, both sitting on 13 points right now. Though that seems very unlikely that many places would jump them. So good chance that we see Athletic Club potentially rotating a little bit because they've been going all at it. Went out of the Copa del Rey in Spain after winning it last season. And they're, I'm sure, very upset about that. But now they are focused on La Liga and this competition, as those are all they have left. Victoria Plzen on the other side, they're a team I drafted in my Champions League Europa League pool, which thank you to Leipzig and to Young Boys, probably is a disaster. But Victoria Plzen have been very good, currently on 12 points, sitting 2 points behind the first round bye. They, I guess, could be caught by the bottom, but they can't fall out and they can't be eliminated from this competition. So they're in great shape. I think they would like to finish as high as possible. A win certainly would put them in some sort of shape to potentially get into the buys, but seems rather unlikely. I'm still pretty interested in Victoria Plzen. They have been very, very good, especially late in matches, stealing points. That's certainly what you want in an underdog. I think I'd love to get a full goal of insurance for a trip to San Mames in a really tough place to play in Spain. But we don't have that yet. I think I lean more to the current number at the total, 2.25, because Athletic Club might not necessarily be using their best here. If we don't see Nico Williams, we don't see Iñaki, his brother, any of the Williams not showing in the starting lineup would certainly, I think, take this number. Maybe Gorka Guruzeta, their striker, also is a potential big miss. We'll see what it looks like because they do have La Liga this weekend. We'll move next to FCSB, the football club of Stade Bucuresti, I believe. But for some reason, they only go by letters. They are hosting Manchester United, which should be a pretty big, I guess, a lot of Manchester United fans, I'm sure, will show because they're the most popular club in the world, it seems, maybe besides Barcelona. But FCSB should have the big guns, not literally, but the biggest fans should all be going to this matchup. And I do think that Manchester United, as I've said all season, are very vulnerable and what team I want to play against. I'm interested in the home underdog getting full goal of insurance. I'm also interested in under 2 3/4, as I don't believe Manchester United are there to score. I swear the Rangers +1 and under 3, both of those pushing last weekend was absolutely vomit inducing, nauseating, all those sort of things. Or last midweek on Thursday. And I watched it live just to really just soak it all in, which was brutal. Manchester United, though, they're sitting fourth place right now on 15 points. Could be caught by Galatasaray, Bodo Glimt, Victoria Plzen, Olympiacos, and that's about it. They're safe to probably get a bye, so that also makes their Premier League weekend, I think, a lot more important. And maybe we see some rotation, which I think plays very well into the home underdog, which, let's not forget, FCSB, certainly these schedules are all unbalanced, but they don't come from a big division or big league, and they are on 14 points in the last of the first round bye positions in eighth place, just on goal differential. So they're tied all the way up to fifth. So this is a team that's been playing well and should be pretty confident. So I'm very interested in FCSB, a 1-goal underdog at home, plus that under 2 3/4, as I said. We'll move next to Ferencvaros. They are hosting AZ Alkmaar, coming off their victory over Roma, though Roma seems to lose every time they go away from home or until they get 2 penalties gifted to them by Serie A officials this weekend with no VAR to speak of, and I'm still upset about it, if that wasn't obvious. Ferencvaros currently quarter-goal favorites at home to AZ Alkmaar with all the juice on AZ. Total is 2.5, juice all the way to under there. Ferencvaros have seen a lot of goals in their matches, but I saw them as a very under team so far, or at least coming into this competition. Hasn't gone great for me, I got to say, but we'll see if they really stick around. So they've had 23 goals scored in their 7 matches, which is way more than expected, and certainly way more than the totals have suggested. They're currently in 22nd, that is Ferencvaros of Bucharest in Hungary. They are on 9 points and are certainly fighting to maintain their position in the knockout round. AZ Alkmaar, on the other side, they are in what place? They're in 14th place on 11 points. Could potentially tie the big log jam on 14, then it'll be decided by goal differential, but they probably need a very big win here to make that happen. And I don't know necessarily if that is a really likely scenario. They could be caught and tied by Porto, can't by Twente or Braga. So I think Clearly, a draw will be good enough for Azad Alkmaar to move on. And I think that dictates a little bit of their play. I'm interested in them as a road underdog. Certainly, it's very juiced at the moment, but it should be because Ferencváros, to me, are not a great offense. They've scored 11 goals somehow in this competition. I don't know how. I'll lean to under 2.5 in that matchup as well. We'll move next to Maccabi Tel Aviv hosting Porto. Well, hosting in quotes, air quotes. If you're not watching the video version, Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, I can't blame you, but you do miss which kit I'm wearing in the random competitions that we're doing. And you're missing Real Sociedad tonight. But with that said, I don't blame you. And Maccabi Tel Aviv, they are really a victim of not getting any home matches, which could be a really huge home field advantage. They're still on 6 points, though, not horrible. Could find a way to tie that 24th position all the way up to 21st. But looks like they will not get through even with a win in this competition. They're a big underdog to Porto, who are sitting 25th and certainly be going all out for it. Porto's defense has been horrible this year. So I think for that reason, I'm more interested in over than anything, though it's a 3, which is a pretty big total, especially in Europa League or the continental competitions. If I got to make a pick though on this game, maybe I'll lean to Tel Aviv even more because they're playing. I mean, not in Tel Aviv, of course, because of all the wars that are going on around the world, probably somewhere in Czechia, in Prague, or in Hamburg in Germany or something like that. Um, I don't know that that really works well because they're considered the home team, and I do think that does impact the lines in this one quite a bit, unfortunately. So not a lot of value on the home underdog that's not at home. Move next to OGC Nice, Olympic Gymnastique Club de Nice in Ligue 1 in France. They're hosting Bodo Glimt. Currently, Nice a pick'em right now with all the juice totals 3.25, juice pretty heavily slash all the way to under. Bodo Glimt are in great position. They're in 10th place right now. They cannot be caught. They're advancing, but they would love to get a bye. A win would certainly help them to do that. Draw is probably not good enough. On the Nice side, they're sitting 35th in this competition on 2 points. And they apparently have been giving up and letting the kids play or something like that. That was pretty widely reported in France, at least heading into their match day this weekend. For that reason, I'm very interested in Bodo Glimt as a pick'em. Would love to see them move to a quarter goal underdog. I don't know necessarily how that will happen. And the total is gigantic, which also reflects Nice not playing their best defenders and saving them for French League this weekend. Embarrassing season for Nice, and honestly, very against what a defensive manager should have put in. A team that's great at defense, brought in a defensive manager, and somehow got really worse. Scores a lot more goals now, but this competition has been a giant flop. Biggest interest, I think, for me is Bodo Glimt at a pick'em. I do have some interest in under, but I doubt maybe at home we see a better lineup from Nice, but I feel like they might as well play the kids at this point since they're eliminated in 35th out of 36. For the live viewers, if you got any comments or questions you want me to cover something a little bit more in depth, please feel free, throw it in the comments and I will display them when I see them. Moving next to Midtjylland hosting Fenerbahce. Currently, Midtjylland, a half a goal underdog at home, I believe, in Denmark. Almost all the juice on Midtjylland over under is 3, just a little bit more heavily to under. Midtjylland currently are sitting 19th position on 10 points. They are 2 points ahead of Porto, 3 of Twente Braga. So they are not safe by any means. A win will probably get them to a higher portion of the part of the table, of course, but will not get them to the buys. So they are essentially just trying to stay in this competition, and I think a draw will do that. And that's probably what they're playing for here, especially with Fenerbahce coming in, managed by most famously by Jose Mourinho. For Fenerbahce, they're much more desperate. They're only on 9 points, 1 point ahead of Porto for the who's in 25th. So they are at the bottom with their rival Besiktas from the Super League in Turkey. And I feel like there's always a premium paid for to bet and have Jose Mourinho. So I generally like to be on the other side, and we know that he plays very conservatively with a lead. If Fenerbahce are ahead and are drawing late, they could be certainly passed by Porto. In terms of their goal differential, they're -2. So if they were drawing, they're at -2. Twente would potentially get to -1 if they're winning on 10 points, and Braga would have to get a lopsided win to climb. So it's not impossible that we see Fenerbahce having to be aggressive. I love taking teams that are on the opposite side of that can use teams' desperation and aggressiveness against them. Certainly, it might mean that there might be a little bit difference in motivation. But at the same time, I think that's one we can cash in on, especially for a home underdog getting half of a goal. I lean to under 3, though. I do think that Fenerbahce are probably in a good position if they take a lead to try to kill this game, as that's what the special one does. But if Michelin take a lead, then I think Fenerbahce, unless there's some really poor results going on from the chasing pack, I think we see a very aggressive going for it type of scenario. And I think that's really good for the side of Michelin, and also not so good for the total, as I expect that there might be one of those goalkeeper going up end of match situations. I've learned not to let that keep me off a bet, but it is something to think about and to be prepared for. So I'll lean to Michelin, a half a goal underdog at home to Fenerbahce. Move next to Olympiacos. They are hosting Qarabağ. Currently, Olympiacos a 1.5 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Total is 3, and the juice is split both ways. Qarabağ currently are sitting 34th in this competition. They are eliminated. As for Olympiacos, they are currently 12th on 12 points. Could find a way with a win to potentially climb into the knockouts, so it seems more unlikely than likely. Um, so Olympiacos big favorites as they should be. I don't really think I have much on this one, I gotta say. So I'll move on to the kit I'm wearing, and that is, or the collared shirt I'm wearing, which feels like either I've gotten bigger, which is probably the case, or this has gotten smaller. Thank you to I guess European cotton or something like that. So that's what I'm blaming. It once fit nice on my first European soccer match, actually. Took my virginity at in San Sebastian. But the peen shows were great. Weather was actually held up and didn't rain, which is awesome. And the beach in the city was pretty cool, I gotta say. Though I went in October, so it wasn't really beach weather, but c'est la vie. And for those of you watching live, if you got anything you want to throw in the comments, I will display them later. Just find a way to get them in there. I actually don't really know how to do it, but I do see them pop up from time to time, and I will put it you through. So Real Sociedad, a 1 goal favorite as I wear their logo. More juice on PAOK right now. Greek club from Thessaloniki. Totals 2.5, juice all the way to over. PAOK currently sitting 17th on 10 points. They're under threat. Currently, Real Sociedad are on 10 points as well in 18th position. So this is a pretty big matchup. Draws would get both to 11, which wouldn't guarantee a safe place. PAOK on a 4 goal differential, Real Sociedad on 2. So if they stayed there with a draw, then Porto would need to win by 2 goals to get past Real Sociedad, and would need to win by like 4 goals to get past PAOK in the standings. So and since PAOK are safer, I mean, I think there's a good chance we see a pretty conservative game plan from PAOK, especially going on the road to Real Sociedad. Real Sociedad, to me, they are incredible at possessing the ball, and that is their best skill. Their goalkeeper, as most are when under pressure, under threat, doesn't do very well. Alex Ramiro, he has some great saves in him and some big blunders, I guess, as all humans do. I think the PAOK side is the one I'm more interested in. I like the full goal of insurance. Don't know that they'd be going crazy because they want to probably protect that goal differential, as opposed to trying to make sure they get a draw, though certainly if a draw would guarantee them an advance, then that's certainly something you might think about. I think the under 2.5 is very interesting, especially with a very heavy juice on 2.5. So we might see this climb actually to 2 3/4 before kickoff. Next, we'll move to Rangers hosting Union Saint-Gilloise. Rangers of Glasgow and Scotland deserved so much better last week. But of course, that's not how things go in the sports world. Big mistakes. The goalkeeper who punched the ball right over his own head into his own net on a corner kick that was an outswinger, leaving and not going towards the goal. Just honestly unbelievable, but I guess it happens. Rangers currently sitting in 13th position on 11 points. They could potentially get to the buys, but doesn't look likely. And they essentially just need a draw, and they cannot be caught and will be in the knockout round. On the other side, however, Union Saint-Gilloise, they're in 15th. So they're tied with Rangers on 11 points as well. Same sort of story. Both get through the draw, don't have much chance of moving on with a victory to the buys. So to me, that makes me think we might see a rather even and maybe not so big of an interest type of match. Going to Glasgow and fighting the Rangers crowd does seem terrifying, though. The Rangers travel really well, even on the road. I can only imagine going to Ibrox. That is a place I really hope Rangers get through because I want to back them as a home underdog against a big club. Union Saint-Gilloise, they're more aggressive attacking, though they've kind of changed their style. They've sold off a ton of players. Amura to VfL Wolfsburg, also Boniface to Bayer Leverkusen, both in the Bundesliga. So I don't know that they've really recouped that talent, and I'm sure that's like finding some winners and then try. It's going to take a little while for them to find more. Um, I do think Union Saint-Gilloise is getting a lot of respect here and is only a quarter goal underdog. I think my biggest interest, I'll go under 3 because I love that push when it's available. Moving next to Lyon, hosting Ludogorets of Bulgaria. Lyon, 1 3/4 goal favorites with all the juice. Total is 3 1/4 and is juiced pretty heavily to under right now. Ludogorets a dead under team to me, but they've been eliminated for this competition, sitting 33rd as they've only scored 3 goals in the entire competition, and they're on 3 points. As for Lyon, they are in fifth on 14 points, and an advance is essential for them. Certainly not worth the 15 million euros that Atalanta cited as a big reason for them playing all their best against Barcelona today. But Lyon are in grave danger financially and will certainly doing all they can to find a way to win this competition, and a buy is essential. They're only 1 point up on Galatasaray, Bodo Glimt, Victoria Plzen 2, Olympiacos 2. So they're not exactly safe, but I do think they're in pretty good shape, and they're pretty deep. So we'll see what Lyon throws out there. Man, I don't know that there's a lot I want with Ludogorets, especially because they're eliminated. Do you really put your best players out there when you're worried about the Bulgarian league? Maybe you're not worried about it, so that's why you can. I think my biggest interest for this matchup is Ludogorets not scoring, so we'll see under 3 1/4. Though Lyon might be able to name their price in this one. Moving next to Anderlecht of Belgium, hosting TSG Hoffenheim of Germany. Currently, Anderlecht, the quarter goal favorite at home with almost all the juice. Total is 2 3/4, juice all the way to over. Anderlecht have had some great upset victories, and they've been very impressive in this competition. So impressive that they're in seventh right now, which I don't think anyone expected. They're on 14 points. Would like to maintain their bye. A draw might help, but I probably think they need a win. We'll see if they can end up getting that. On the other side, TSG Hoffenheim are on 6 points, could get up to 9 to match the bottom of the table. That they're on -4 goal differential, so they get to -3. They need a loss from and a big one, most likely from one of these teams. Besiktas probably the easiest one for them to catch, but we'll see if that happens. Currently, Hoffenheim a road underdog. I don't think I've seen much to really support them. I did play against. Really, I did play on TSG Hoffenheim. Technically, I made a bet on them, but it was a lot based on a bet against Tottenham. And honestly, if the refs had I don't know, gone to VAR for a handball and not given a goal at the other end, and that put Tottenham up 2-0, and they still held on for dear life, 2-1, and then 3-2 final. But that was probably the last stand for TSG Hoffenheim to move through. TSG, excuse me. They're a club full of mismanagement, so not a lot of expectations there. I don't know that I want much to do with this one. I feel like Anderlecht have been scoring some screamers this year, so I expect them in this competition to score less, but it's hard to see that right now. Moving next to Dynamo Kyiv, they're half a goal favorite at home with all the juice, or home because no one's playing in the Ukraine in the Europa League this season. Totals 2 3/4, juice a little bit more to under, and they are hosting Rigas Futbola Scola. Currently, RFS for short is in 30th, and Dynamo Kyiv are 36th in last place. This match does not matter. I will move on to the next. Sporting Braga, currently 3/4 goal favorites with more juice at home, and a total of 2 3/4 with slightly more juice to over against Lazio, sitting first in the table. And we saw from Liverpool today, first in the table in the Champions League, that they played literally every youth player they could, and even moved Andy Robertson to right center back of all places to see how that would go. At least that's what the lineup said before the match started. I think that does show what their expectations are for Andy Robertson moving forward. Honestly, Tsimikas gets attacked every time he plays, so I think there's some problems there for Liverpool. But in this case, I mean, if Lazio play good players, I mean, I'm betting +3/4 is probably my ultimate best bet. I think at this point it's so hard to know what they will put out there, so I don't think I can do that. But I lean to Lazio getting 3/4 of a goal for sure. And I really need to see what this lineup looks like. Sporting Braga, they are in danger. They are currently in 27th on 7 points, 2 points behind the last knockout round spot. Though there are four teams on 9 points: Roma, Ferencvaros, Fenerbahce, and Besiktas. And then, of course, some tens, five more of those. So not impossible for a big win here to potentially get Sporting Braga up the table. Certainly not the best club you want to do it against, though. And I'll be looking at these lineups. So Lazio have no reason to play anybody good. Moving next to Roma, hosting Frankfurt, and this is a big battle for Roma. They've been much better at home. I think the Serie A broadcast this weekend was saying how they are basically the wolves that you see in their logo at home, and they are the children suckling the wolves on their badge away from home. Maybe I might have made that up, but that's kind of what they're saying. Anyway, Roma three-quarter goal favorites right now to Eintracht Frankfurt with a little bit more juice on Eintracht. Total is 2 and 3/4, juice all the way to over. Eintracht Frankfurt, they are currently in a much better position in second in the table. And I don't think they have much to play for, probably nothing. They also just sold Omar Mamouche to Manchester City. So what do they really have to gain here? We see the same number as Lazio. I'm interested in Eintracht Frankfurt, but going on the road to Roma is a tough thing to do, of course. And I don't really know because if their best attackers aren't in there, which Marmouche is one who's gone from the club, Hu Ekitike is a project, I think, still at this point. And I think there's some problems even if they do start a good lineup, that they might not keep them in there forever because they want to focus on the Bundesliga and are pretty much locked up into a bye. Moving next to Slavia Praha hosting Malmo. Currently, Slavia Praha a 1-goal favorite at home. More juice on Malmo away. Total is 3, juice all the way to under. Currently, Malmo in 32nd, Slavia Praha in 31st, both on 4 points. Can't get further in this competition. I've been Slavia Praha were one of my pool teams, so joined them with young boys and, more importantly, Red Bull Leipzig, who I do seem to have every year in Champions League. So I'm really surprised they had such a bad year this year. But I'm interested in Malmo with a full goal of insurance. I don't know who they're going to play necessarily, and the Swedish league hasn't been playing much. So that's also an issue. Lean to under 3 in that matchup as well. Don't think that's going to get too close to the final card. I want to make sure I'm checking in on the live viewers. If you got anything you want to throw in, I will go through it, the comments, as soon as I see them. Let's move to Tottenham hosting Elfsborg. Currently, Tottenham 2-goal favorites with more juice. Total is 3.5 juice, also all the way to under. Elfsborg, they've been great. They're on 10 points right now in 20th position. As I thought that was a gunshot, but apparently it was a thunderbolt. As there is some storms going on in DAAS, Texas. Currently, Elfsborg on 10 points can be caught by plenty of teams, but a draw makes them really tough to knock out. That's for sure. Tottenham on the other side, they're in sixth position on 14 points, and they are not guaranteed a bye position. But here's the battle. Elfsborg have been very good at home, have taken scalps of great teams like Roma, who have not played well this year, but credit Elfsborg for that. I think I'm interested in the Elfsborg 2-goal underdog. I think I'm more interested in that than the under 3.5, just because Tottenham are allergic to keeping clean sheets. And I think that certainly plays into backing Elfsborg needing a goal and trying to defend this whole time. The hard part, though, is I think I'd probably rather have under 3.5. I just can't trust unders with Tottenham whatsoever. So man, that's tough. And that's probably one I'll think about a lot tonight and into tomorrow. Last but not least, we have FC Twente, a quarter goal favorite to Besiktas, with a little bit more juice on the home team. Total is 3, juice to split both ways. And currently, FC Twente, they are sitting 26th right now. So they need to climb 2 positions. They're 2 points back of the logjam at 9, and I guess they could get to 10. And Elfsborg are one of those sides that they could try to jump. On the other side, we have Besiktas there and sitting 24th. This might be the most competitive match that's out there because both of these teams have so much on the line. And a draw is not good enough for Twente. A draw is great for Besiktas. Probably not good enough, though, because you got to worry about Porto below them with a much better goal differential. I think Besiktas are in a great position to go on the road and set some traps and wait for Twente, who are not a great offense from the Dutch Eredivisie, to try to overextend and push too far forward. So I'm very interested in Besiktas as the road underdog here. I lean to under 3 as well. I do think that we see either of these teams, if whoever's behind is going to be going rip roaring to try to score those. That is a very scary proposition possibility, and I think I am a little bit nervous about that one, to say the least. So I do like Besiktas getting a quarter of a goal. It's time to get to the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Thank you for all of you that came in live, and of course, all of you that are watching. For some reason, Europa League, I think maybe it's because Champions League I do pretty well, and then the Europa League follows right after that. So people want to ride the momentum. But this show always does a lot more, even though the teams are barely known, but followed by a lot of the general public, and that the few soccer supporters in English that actually care. I feel like the funnel seems pretty sufficient, I guess, to get people into this podcast. So thank you for the support. If you could leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, it's huge for the search rankings. If you got a question in there, like me to cover something, or if you want us to do a props episode, A_Schnicker and I on the NFL version of the Betting Pitch Podcast Network, we can certainly do that if we see some love from you all. And we'll get plenty of it as it is, but certainly those things do matter in the world of clicks and impressions. So if you could leave a 5-star review, that's huge. Subscribe at @the_Real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you can. And if you want picks across college basketball, including a best bet winner to improve to 10-4 so far this season, 71% on the college basketball podcast hosted by pregame.com, formerly on this network, but is the Need for Seeds college basketball podcast, the Big East Bend. I've been crushing it there. I think we're starting to warm up finally in the end of January onto a big run, the March and the NCAA tournament bracket stuff. All that stuff will be very exclusive to patreon.com. So check that out. Patreon.com. So that's real_G Warner. Other than that, it's time for the ultimate best bet. I record a 1 minute or so reel. That was the limits back in the day. I guess those have changed. I've been doing this so long. But I guess the idea is I record what my favorite pick is going to be. I usually pick from the early and late windows in Europa League, but we don't have that this time as everyone playing at the same time, thanks to Germany and Austria in the Euro way back when. But besides that, if you want the 1 minute version, certainly a dumbed down is not fair, especially because I'm the only one talking. But there's a 1 minute version of this podcast that's available 1 minute or less on at @the_Real_G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram if you want just the favorite pick I'm going with. And we've been a pretty good 26-9 for 74% so far this season. So it's time for the ultimate best bet. Let's do it. Hey, this is Real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet. We're 26-9, 74% this season. Got one Champions League play pending, but we will be catching up on that very shortly. I go through every match on the calendar. This one is Europa League on Thursday, January 29th. I give you my best bet. You go put it in, and you go win 74% of the time. That's the plan. Let's do it. I'm wearing my Real Sociedad shirt from San Sebastian that I bought my first Europa League match, or actually my first European soccer match. And I'm going to stick with a match going down in right there in San Sebastian. I'll go PAOK visiting Real Sociedad under 2.5 goals. Both these teams have a lot on the line to try to make sure they advance 17th and 18th positions. And I think PAOK go away from home and try to keep this as low scoring as possible. Real Sociedad want that type of game. They want to possess the ball, but they don't score very efficiently. So go PAOK Real Sociedad under 2.5 goals for the ultimate best bet on this episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you for the next episode. NFL podcast might come out with A_Schnicker tomorrow night. We're working on some scheduling as the Super Bowl is about 10 days away. And then, of course, look forward to the NFL, potentially a props episode. If you give us some 5-star reviews, that's the trade we're looking for, or some subscribers on YouTube. I guess that will probably count as well if that's your venue of choice to watch the Betting the Pitch podcast. But college basketball will have the Need for Seeds college basketball again with Big East Bend Friday recorded for the Saturday card. Plus, I'll be doing my normal Friday for the soccer weekend coming up and get you through all the top 5 European soccer leagues and not just the Europa League. Thanks so much for tuning in. I guess that's I don't see any comments, so I will sign off. And please tell your friends, leave some comments, nice or naughty, whatever you'd like. And we'll see you next time on the Betting Pitch Podcast Network.